Peace. I want to start out by saying universal knowledge kills ignorance universally. I also want to say don't insult your intelligence by limiting your intelligence. Also, learn to focus more on the things that connect and less on the things that don't connect. See, if you learn to connect those dots and focus on those dots that do connect, then the truth that you seek will begin to reveal itself to you. If you're not ready for more knowledge, just say that. You know, if you're still trying to digest the first batch of knowledge you received, just say that. Then you have to ask yourself, are you awake or are you just dreaming that you're awake? It's a very important question that everyone should ask themselves. Also, don't let your emotions interfere with your discovery of truth. Use your real eyes, stop idolizing, and learn to work your own mind. See, idolize. You're dealing with three dull eyes, dull eyes. So, what you need to do is sharpen your vision. Stop with all the self-semantics. Use your real eyes, not your idle eyes. Because idle is to stand still, to not move. No vibration. So you have to recalibrate your system by getting in tune with nature, letting go of all the harmful technology and raise your vibration. See, this is also why diet is so important. Also, people need to be cautious of these so-called spiritual teachers and healers. They are not always what they appear to be. If they're not telling you to detach, they're probably trying to attach to you and feed on you. These individuals get high off your energy. It's like a parasite, which a parasite pairs on your sights. It's like the movie I Come in Peace, when there were like these aliens, blonde, blue-eyed aliens, look like humans, will come down from outer space and they were feeding on the earthlings. They had this tube thing that come out of their hand like a needle or some type of suction device that sucks the plasma out of these people, and this is how they get their high. They actually get high off of the blood plasma. See, now you're dealing with melanin or dark plasma when dealing with or as it relates to sun people or melanin rich people. So it's very important to be aware of what you're up against, to be aware of what's going on around you. This is very detrimental. People need to stop neglecting this. People need to stop neglecting themselves, trying to follow behind someone else. You know, people have to learn to use their own mind and start thinking for themselves. You know, it's too much piggybacking going on, you know, and this is unhealthy for spiritual growth. Also, the people that are encouraging people to neglect their health and their diet, or people that are encouraging people to neglect their knowledge of law and government or current affairs and to only focus on history, or saying that anything else is a distraction. These are parasitic individuals, and you need to detach from them because they are going to prohibit your spiritual growth as well. These individuals rationalize savage behavior, whether it be diet, whether it be being ignorant to law, or being legally incompetent, which is the problem with most people. And that brings me to something that I also want to touch on. Now, personally, whatever you choose to call yourself, collectively behind closed doors or as a group, that's your business. But publicly or legally, you should not be referring to yourself as black, because black is a very low class status legally. It's almost like a dead status, the lowest class in the class system. Um, People need to stop playing semantics with themselves and realize or accept the fact that black and white is not a race. Human is. Black and white is not a nation or a nationality, because there's no country inside of any continent called black or white. Now, if somebody chooses to build a black or white nation, then, maybe things would be different. But until then, it remains as is. Um, Once again, self semantics. If you read from and accept the definitions from a defining dictionary, let's say Webster, then you should also be willing to accept or read from and accept the definitions that come from specialized dictionaries. For example, law dictionaries. You know, how could you use one and not the other? Or say one is credible, not the other, or acknowledge one but ignore the other. See, once again, we want to play science class and government class. See, this is law and government. So when you're dealing with law and government or social studies or political science, this is not the same as dealing with science or physics or you know anything dealing with melanin or dark matter, or which is dark plasma, which again gets you into the more, or the MR, the master, the overseer, the sun, the middle fire, the pyramid, as a relation to sun people. Um, Now, what what needs to be examined is these words. How did they come into play? How old are these words? Who introduced you to these words? Where did this terminology come from? People need to stop using foreign um, terminology, foreign terms and words to define their ancestry, especially these perverted terms and words and definitions to that are used to define or describe one's ancestry. Um, this is also stunting your spiritual growth, and it has to stop. You know, it's an insult to your ancestry, which is your star state or your star quality. This is where you need to return to. Now, if you were to look up in the etymology dictionary the word black, you will see that the origin of this word does not predate 500 years or any more than 1,000 years. Um, it's an English word. It's not an Ethiopian word. It's not an Egyptian word. English is broken German. You know, people need to also come to grips with this. But then again, the sorcerers have, tricked people again into believing in make believe, and it's really keeping people in bondage. You know, People must realize they're jumping out of the frying pan only to land right in the skillet. You know, black and white is a caste system. It's classified by color. A caste system that's classified by color. Look up black code. Look into that. See what that refers to and what that deals with. But once again, the people that have brought you this information have already perverted this information before it's been presented to you. Because if this information is the key to your empowerment, or they say knowledge is power, why would someone give you access to all of this power? This would ultimately bring about their demise. Do you really think these people are that foolish? See, this is also something that's used to create distractions. So when you get into these Egyptian words and Egyptian terminology and things of that nature, you must take into consideration that these literatures, these works, these so-called papyruses, and these different things have been tainted, they've been altered, they've been perverted. The Bible is not the only thing that's been perverted. The Quran has been perverted. The maps have been perverted. Science has been perverted. Math has been perverted. It's not universal. It was originally designed to be universal, but it is not universal anymore. That is an illusion. Also kept. An illusion that will keep you in bondage. Will keep you binded in bondage. Excuse me. We have to accept these things and stop being in denial. Stop using such self-denial, because it's actually crippling our growth. You know, it's killing us as a people. You know, and we need to get right with ourselves, you know, and come to grips with these things. Like I said, whatever you choose to call yourself privately or personally, that's your business. But publicly and legally, you have to be smarter than that, because until you can truly form and build your own nation, then that means your existence is inside of a nation. And it has law, and it has government, it has statutes, it has a constitution and things of that nature. So it would benefit you to learn these different things, to use them in your on your behalf or in your favor. You know, but then, you know, instead of trying to manipulate the system, people have to learn how to get out of the system and focus on wanting to get out of the system instead of using these things as tools to manipulate the system. Because the system has been designed to destroy you. So how long do you want to play with fire? How long you think it will be before you get burned playing with fire? Also, people need to realize that, you know, these same Europeans that played with your Bible, these same Europeans that tampered with the Quran, these are the same Europeans that tampered with the translations of what you call the Metruneta, or what you think is hieroglyphic. Your whole sense or ideal of your root and your ancestry is much more deeper. And see, the thing is, people need to learn to focus more on the inner and less on the outer. You know, your inner formation. You know, because do you really, really trust your oppressors to free you? You know, your ancestors are there, they're all around you. You just have to learn how to communicate with them. You have to go inside yourself. This is why diet, again, is important. Lifestyle, again, is important. What you tune in and what you tune out from is important. And what you tune into and what you tune out is important. See, they demonize everything about Africa or Asia or the continent. They separated it, divided it by imaginary lines. People think Africa, they think Asia, they think separate places. That's the problem. People are thinking too separate. They need to think holistically. But a lot of people don't want to do that because that requires critical thinking. And lazy thinkers aren't critical thinkers. They're just regurgitators of information repetitively, so they convince themselves that this is truth. Once again, like I said, you can't let your emotions interfere with your discovery of truth. The actual, and this brings me back to black, or the terminology of black. You know, when you go into its etymology, you see it being pale or dealing with the pale people. Now, this is dark or black. Now, Europe or Europe is the place where the sun sets or the sun sets upon, casts its shadow, so therefore it will be darkness. Europe is really the dark land or the land of the sunset, the land of the sunset. See, but they reversed it and they told you Africa is the dark land. How is Africa the dark land if it's the land of sun? And Asia is the land of the rising sun. How could any of these lands be the dark land? See, they're playing mind games. You know, but people don't study, they don't read enough, they don't critically think. Now, people must realize the English language is language. It's slang words agreed upon, just like their history is a lie agreed upon. See, when you're dealing with this in the perspective you need to analyze this from is this. It's his story, or history versus mystery. His story versus my story. The mystery is your story. See, what they say is mythology or mystery. This is in reference to your story or anything that's out of the European design or culture or ideology of what they want you to think, the origin or what the world is or what the world was at a particular point in time. They've convinced you that dinosaurs are millions of years old, that Pangea was billions of years old, and all these different things took place billions of years ago. So you really have the information and the technology to date that these things are millions or billions of years old, but you can't figure out some of the simplest things. You can't figure out how to to reduplicate or to reconstruct the building of the pyramids, but you can tell me that you can draw maps and different things, and you have an ideology of animals and different things that existed millions and billions of years ago. Or were the maps, was the information, was the data already there, and did this really happen that long ago? Did it really take that long for land to split? I mean, do we really have a count of every earthquake that hit, every cataclysm, every thing that hit and caused the earth to break apart or separate or to flood or to drought or dry out? See, this is again where critical thinking comes into play. You know, and again, where people have to stop playing semantics with themselves. They have to stop insulting their intelligence by limiting their intelligence, because it's only hindering your spiritual growth. You know, people must come to this realization and they must accept this. They must use their real eyes and not their idle eyes. You know, see, when you're dealing with trick knowledge is going to appear to be right and exact, but it is not. See, that's the biggest part of the illusion, is making you believe that the make-believe is real. So this is why it's very important to have clear vision and to have clarity on how you view the world around you, the information that you receive. A lot of you say that you're knowledge seekers, seekers of truth and knowledge, but a lot of you are just believers. But you're an advanced version of believer. You're a type of believer that doesn't believe anything, but yet you're still believing because you're not tapping in, you're tapping out. You're talking about what books did someone read and what references did this come from and what references that come from. You have the best reference in the world inside of you. It's called your DNA or your ancestors. All of your chromosomes. Unlock. And the answers will be there. See, your inner formation should spark the ideal, the thought. And that should cause you, or should cause an outer formation, which leads you to look in certain areas, and you'll find certain data or certain things that will be useful into piecing the puzzle together. But it works both ways. It's an inner and outer. You see, a lot of you are relying too much on physical, on the exoteric, and you have no experience or no dealings with the esoteric or the inner. This is what you need to tap into. This is what you need to get back to. See, because when you talk about spirituality and our ancestors, these are the things that our ancestors did. They were in tune with nature. They were in tune with energy, the principles of energy, and the science that surrounds these different things. A lot of you are using a robotic perspective, Euro perspective on what you think is Afro-centered knowledge, and it's not. It's trick knowledge, and this Euro perception is causing you to look at things in pieces. It's causing you to look at things divided. It's causing you to only be able to reference from a book or something that's written, which is pretty much the thoughts of someone else. And how much can you trust or rely on the thoughts of someone else? Especially when everything, all information, or all these books and these different things, documents, are being checked by a system of checks and balances. Most of these things go through the Vatican. They're already checked. They're already pre-approved, because this is part of the sorcerer's trick. So you think you're on the right knowledge, but you're really on to wrong knowledge, and it needs to be corrected. Although a lot of you may not accept this, a lot of you may disagree, that's fine. I see you're still working the parasites out of your system. Continue on. See, once you learn to go ether, that won't be a problem. You can burn them off. But until then, they'll keep sucking you dry, controlling your thoughts, your way of thinking, your behavior, your mentality, your view on things, and they will keep you idolizing, or keep all three eyes dull. See, once the parasite pairs on the site and they latch on, you're in trouble. But see, it's up to you. You know, you do have the power. You know, you can remove these things, but you gotta heat up. You gotta heat up. A lot of you too cold. You're thinking too cold. This cold way of thinking is gonna land you in an ice box. So you need to heat up and be like the sun. The sun can't be contained. Or can it? See, but this requires discipline and self-control. Now, a lot of these different things that people are allowing themselves to be distracted by, they need to detach from these things. They really need to go back to nature. The television is a distraction. The debates are a distraction. These so-called sources of information are a distraction, because all of these things are keeping you looking outside yourself, and you're not looking inside yourself. This is where the true awakening, the true salvation, this is where this is. So you have to rise. This is an internal resurrection. See, like I said, a lot of you are too focused on the external. You need to stop that, because it's crippling you. Although a lot of you may not want to admit this or accept it, but the truth is what it is, regardless if you believe it or not. You know, whether you accept it or not, it still remains to be. You know, so I really just encourage a lot of you, you know, if you're a deep thinker, think deeper. If you're a critical thinker, get more critical. You know, don't limit yourself. You know, obtain knowledge universally, because it kills ignorance universally.